What's up with everybody? It's your man Moyo B.
And Nicole.
And we're back at it with some more reaction videos, baby. See, man, this is another special video request from Matthew Man. Matthew Man was put on our channel.
Like crazy.
Matthew Man wants to check out how did Arabs become one of the unspoken pillars of Latin American society.
That's interesting. Arabs and the pillars of the Latin American society. Okay.
Yeah.
It's gonna be interesting then.
I guess I never really thought about it. Like they became like one of the outspoken pillars.
Yeah, I wouldn't have either.
Yeah, so it's gonna be pretty interesting.
Yeah,
this is about the channel Mason Man. So we're finna dive right into it.
Latin America is a fascinating society, being a hybrid of primarily European, Native American, and African genetics and culture, which has given the region its distinct identity today. Although many may have never realized this, very similarly to the United States, most Latin American countries are also a melting pot, deriving from dozens of different nations other than just Spain and Portugal, and perhaps even more so than the US because of an even greater range and diversity for its gene pool, seeing the large ethnic population of Japanese, Italians, Germans, Anglo-Caribbeans, and other immigrant populations from all around the world. There is, however, a fourth pillar of Latin American society, one which has largely maintained a low profile for centuries, however is widely influential behind the scenes. I am referencing, of course, the incredibly large Middle Eastern population in many Latin American countries, which have been around for longer than many care to keep track of, and it would surprise many to learn the robust and sprawling nature of this community, which has become heavily entrenched in mainstream Latin American society, yet at the time remains hidden in plain sight. Essentially, Latin America has had links to the civilizations of the Middle East and North Africa ever since the first Spaniards landed on North American soil in 1492, seeing how the countries of Spain and Portugal, or at least the territory they encompassed, were once very closely linked to North Africa, seeing as to how they were actually incorporated in a part of many Islamic caliphates from as early as the 8th century AD, and they had a presence in the Iberian Peninsula for almost 800 years before the last of the Iberian Moors were finally driven out of Europe. And not to mention that Iberia has had relations with North Africans since antiquity, from the Carthaginians to the Romans. The Iberian Moors left many aspects of their culture on mainstream Spanish and Portuguese culture through architecture, vocabulary, and genetics, seeing as to how Iberians on average have around 2 to 10% North African or Middle Eastern admixture, mostly from the Moors that remained in the region and converted to Catholicism and intermarried with Castilians and others. This is especially apparent today in the people of southern Portugal, Andalusia, Spain's most southern region, and in the Canary Islands, which have a bit of a different history, with the native Ganch people being descended from ancient North African Berbers. However, they were completely absorbed into the new Canarian population, dominated by immigrants from the mainland of Spain. Also of note is the formerly large Sephardic Jewish population of Iberia, who of course have their origins in Israel and the Levant region, and were scattered throughout the Mediterranean by the Romans a couple thousand years ago, contributing to the large Jewish diaspora today. Many of these Muslims, known as Moriscos and Jews, were expelled from Iberia during the Inquisition of the 15th century, with most heading to North Africa, although many converts or conversos were able to flee to Spain and Portugal's colonies in the New Worlds, oftentimes blending into the society and identifying as peninsulares to take full advantage of the casta system, and their descendants in Latin America today could number far more than anticipated, easily in the tens of millions, although their hidden nature makes it impossible to know without DNA testing or tracing back surnames. Although this does show Latin America's deep connections with the Middle East and North African regions, this video is actually going to cover the more recently migrated communities from the Middle East, specifically those of Levantine Arab ancestry, who over the centuries have significantly impacted Latin American culture. Mid to large-sized minorities of ethnic Arabs from the regions of Lebanon, Palestine, and Syria inhabit almost every single Hispanic American country, as well as the sole Lusophone country of Brazil, and they've become an important addition to Latino society today. Immigration of Arabs began around the mid to late 1800s, with the first Lebanese traders arriving en masse in large port cities of Brazil around 1860, although occasional migration of Arabs to various Latino countries like Argentina or Chile were recorded even before 1850, shortly after the waves of independence movements that swept through Latin America. Because the Levant was historically a part of the Ottoman Empire, most Arabs who arrived in Latin America in the 19th century were classified as Turks by nationality, despite only a tiny proportion of Ottoman immigrants actually being of the Turkish ethnicity. And during the period of European colonialism in the Levant after World War II, Syrian and Lebanese immigrants arrived on French passports instead of Ottoman ones, although they were clearly seen as distinct from French immigrants. The Lebanese Civil War of the 70s and 80s, which is notorious for being one of the most lengthy and violent in the Arab world, taking the lives of around 10% of the Lebanese population over a period of 15 years, was the catalyst for yet another large-scale wave of immigration to Latin America, seeing nearly 100,000 migrants headed for Latino countries in only a few years. In the early race-based class system of Latin American society, they were neither rejected nor completely accepted by these various governments, most of which desired immigrants from Western European countries. Early Arab immigrants were almost entirely Christian, and even then many Orthodox or Muslim immigrants converted to Catholicism upon arrival in these countries, knowing the inherent disadvantage of being a Muslim in a society with deep-seated distrust of Muslim communities. And early Arab immigrants were generally treated the same way as any European immigrant community, and were able to assimilate into Latino society with ease, no doubt in part due to their racially ambiguous appearance, able to integrate and marry into the white,
they lighter, so
Pardo communities. Arabs did occasionally clash with other Latinos, such as the Curitiba riot in southern Brazil in 1959, where many shops owned by Arab immigrants were looted or destroyed due to a conflict with local police. Although many of the early immigrants from the Levant were wealthy merchants and traders, very many more had very little, if nothing, to their names upon arriving on Brazilian or Mexican or Colombian shores, with many mistakenly believing that they were headed for the United States when they boarded passenger ships headed for America. However, they made the best for themselves in this new land, quickly becoming one of the most affluent groups in Latin America. Arab Latinos set up their own shops, restaurants, and the occasional farms, although for the most part clung to large cities such as Buenos Aires, Sao Paulo, Santiago, or Mexico City. Notable Arab Latin Americans include Carlos Slim, a Mexican billionaire of Lebanese descent, Michel Temer, current Brazilian president of Lebanese descent, along with 7 other former Latin American presidents of Arab ancestry, including Carlos Menem of Argentina and Julio Ayala of Colombia, and currently over 10% of the Brazilian parliament has Arab ancestry. Because of the low-profile nature of these Arab Latino communities, no one really knows just how many Arabs are in each specific country, and especially since many might have partial Arab ancestry and might not even be aware of it, a precise enumeration is thus impossible, although I've compiled a plethora of sources to get the most accurate rundown on this particular demographic. All in all, there are a combined 10 to 20 million people of Arab descent in all Latin American countries, with a median estimate of about 17 million, which is far and away more than any other region on the planet outside of their native homeland, outnumbering those in Europe, South Asia, and the United States. This includes around 10.6 million Lebanese, 5.2 million Syrian, 1.1 million Palestinian, and a much smaller amount from other nationalities such as those of Egyptian, Maghrebi, or Iraqi origin. Compared to the population of their home nations, their numbers are fairly spectacular, particularly the Lebanese community, which is nearly twice as large as the country of Lebanon today, quite comparable to the large diasporas of many Western European nations. Likewise, estimates on religious affiliation vary greatly, but it is certain that the percentage of Christians for Latin American Arabs is far higher than in the Middle East, with 70 to 80% of Arabs in Latin America being Christian today, while only 10 to 20% are Muslim, and possibly even lower than this, as the Brazilian census counted less than 100,000 Muslims in the entire country in 2010, although independent sources claim 500,000 to as high as 1.5 million. Catholics, specifically Maronites, are the largest sect of Latino Arabs at around 53%. 22% are Eastern Orthodox, such as the Greek Melkites.
It's like majority of people down there is mostly like Catholic
community is split
and Orthodox.
2/3 Sunni and 1/3 Shia.
This is just
there's
Arab
also a
population,
modestly sized Druze population of around 150,000. This means that around 6 out of 10 Arab Christians in the world currently live in Latin America, and this really does help to answer the conundrum of where the bulk of Christians in the Middle East disappeared to since the 19th century, seeing as to how Lebanon was over 70% Christian, Syria 20%, and Palestine over 15% by the beginning of the 20th century. However, since then, the proportion of Christians, especially in Palestine, have dropped dramatically. As a consequence of their swift integration and assimilation into Latino society, there are only 2 to 4 million speakers of Arabic in the region today, as the younger generations usually speak only Spanish or Portuguese, similar to that of the Japanese Latino population, and even most of the elderly Arab population has only a rudimentary grasp on the Arabic language, although Arabic slang is very often incorporated into everyday speech. The largest numbers of Arabs in Latin America is without a doubt located in Brazil, numbering around 5 to 10 million, giving it a larger Arab population than several countries in the Arab world, and others with Arab populations above 2% include Argentina, Chile, Colombia, Venezuela, and Honduras, although in some areas like the city of Barranquilla in northern Colombia, up to 20% of the population has some Arab blood. Although rates of emigration back to their home countries is very low, a substantial number of Arab Latinos have also been migrating to the United States in recent years, where the general widespread misinformation surrounding Latino identity in American pop culture clashes with the reality that Latinos are an incredibly diverse group of people, and not a monolithic, homogeneous race and culture, as many would have you believe. The Arab population of Latin America is a very unique and fascinating population, along with the pre-existing influence from the Middle East and North Africa in Iberian society, just goes to show the link between Middle Eastern and Latino societies, and not to mention that the bulk of the Christian population of the Levant, especially Lebanese Maronites, have varying degrees of Western European admixture, so in a way they're going full circle by migrating back into a Christian European-based society. Please let me know your thoughts on the Arab-Latino community made up of Lebanese, Palestinians, and Syrians. And as always, thank you so much for watching. This has been Mason, and I'll see you next time.
I'm not good with flags at all.
Yeah, man, you know, a whole lot of Arabs down there was like Christian.
Well, I mean, that
they
makes
converted
sense
to Christianity.
Yeah. I kind of feel like it was twofold. I feel like a lot of them maybe converted to Christianity because that's what
to be more
was popular. But I also feel like he said, those Arab countries like Syria and Palestine or whatever used to have a heck of a lot more Christians than they do. So a lot of them may have just migrated out.
It could be because I know
it could be both.
No, Palestine. I think a huge percent of their population might be Muslim.
Now I think it is.
Well,
but he was saying earlier in the beginning of the 20th century, there was a much larger proportion of Christians.
Yeah.
So they may have all just left those countries because of persecution or whatever too. So it probably was both aspects. I would think. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy, man. I mean, they started coming over here like in what, 1800s, late 1850s.
I think. Well, I don't know. Did he say an exact date?
Oh, I thought it was I know it was 1800s.
Oh yeah. Well, that's when the Spanish started coming over. Yeah.
Spanish.
Sorry. Man. You good?
Yeah, it's pretty interesting, man. There's a lot of great stuff in there. There's so much stuff you learn about, man. You know, I mean, it's interesting learning stuff from other countries and other cultures around the world versus just learning stuff from your country.
Agreed.
You know what I'm saying? Just to see how people, like, you know.
It's just all very informative because I've not myself done like a lot of research on these kinds of things. So this is all new information for me. So, like, I had no idea that, Latin America had more Muslims or more not Muslims, Arabs. Arabs than any other country.
Yeah, because we get this thing, stereotype
outside of their outside of their homeland. I mean,
you get this thing that when you think of a person as an Arab, they automatically Muslim. Right. You know, there is some Arabs that are Christians and practice other religions and stuff too.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's just when people think of Arab like Iraq, Iran, Muslim. Right. I mean, it do be some Muslims. It do be some Christians over there that do get persecuted, but I'm sure it's people who persecute Muslims over here. Sometimes they kind of
obviously,
get this look,
they definitely get
which is horrible to persecute anybody for any religion. Or whether you're a Christian persecuting a Muslim or you're a Muslim persecuting a Christian,
right?
It's just horrible to do that against any person. Yeah, man, definitely great video.
Very good.
Definitely informative. Definitely enjoyed it. Thank you for your special requests, Matthew, man. Thank you.
And your support.
Yeah, man. Make sure to subscribe to Mason, man. He makes some great videos. But we're going to go to the end of this video. If you want to support our channel, you want to leave us a special video request, check out the link to our Streamlabs. It's going to be in our description and our YouTube video cards. Make sure to leave a video link and keep the videos under 12 minutes. Don't forget to subscribe.
Thumbs it up.
Turn on notification. It's your man, Moria B.
And Nicole.
We're going to catch you on the next one. Peace and love, baby.